the state. From the feudal system to the state. Whereas a prince needs only a decree, a princely state requires laws. This is an essential movement toward the formation of a public rather than private authority. Complex horizontal structure of feudal society crystallized into a vertical pattern of states in the 15th century Europe. Concepts related to the state include the family, clan, sept, and tribe. All are ancestral, kin-derived societies. A federation and a nation build from these, but are qualitatively different inasmuch as they are based on the state concept. In general, the concepts change from small numbers and personal relationships to large numbers and impersonal relationships. Here's some useful concepts and definitions. Country, the geographical area of a state. A state, a set of institutions that possess the authority to make the rules that govern a society having internal and external sovereignty over a definite territory. It has a monopoly over the legitimate use of violence. Sovereignty, the exclusive right to exercise supreme political authority over a geographic region, group of people, or oneself. Here's important concepts and definitions in the context of states. Include nation. This is a national ethno-cultural group. A state-nation is a state that mobilizes a nation. A stateless nation is an ethno-cultural group that lacks the coherency and unity offered by a state. A nation-state is a nation that mobilizes a state, and a federation is a state comprised of a number of partially self-governing regions, often themselves referred to as states, that are united by a central, that is, federal government.
What is a state? There are four critical or necessary characteristics of a state in political science. They are territory, population, government, and sovereignty. The first necessary characteristic is territory. Territory means land with specific boundaries. If you look at a map, you can find the land mass and boundaries of a country. Here you can see, by means of a map, the territories of the United States and the People's Republic of China. Each has a mass of land within a specified boundary. The second necessary characteristic is population. Population refers to a permanent group of people that live within the boundaries of a territory. How many is not an issue. China has a population well over 1 billion. The Vatican City, found in the heart of Rome, Italy, is a square mile in size and has a population of only 832. However, those 832 are the permanent residents of the Vatican. They are its population. Antarctica has territory. It has no population. It also has no government or sovereignty. It's a continent because it has territory, but it's not a state because it lacks population, government, and sovereignty. The third necessary characteristic is a government. A government is an organized social, political structure for making decisions and exercising authority. Sometimes governments collapse and disappear. At the end of World War II, when Germany surrendered, it ceased to have a government. That meant that Germany was no longer a state as defined in political science. Beginning in the 1990s, the state of Somalia in East Africa experienced a breakdown of its government. The government had no control over the country. Groups of rebels loyal to warlords roved the country doing as they wished. Somalia was referred to as a failed state, meaning that it now failed to meet the requirements of being a state in the international community. Governments usually have to do two things: exercise authority and control within their country, and be recognized by other governments in the international community. The final characteristic is sovereignty. Sovereignty means having the ability to determine your own fate and decide your own policy. The Philippines between 1898 and 1914 were a colony of the United States. As a colony, they had territory, a population, and a government. However, that government could not make the most important decisions. Only the President of the United States and Congress could make these decisions. The government in the Philippines had to live with those decisions and carry them out on the islands. Since the Philippines lacked sovereignty, it was not a state. It was a colony. Scotland is part of the United Kingdom. It has territory, a government in Edinburgh with a first minister, and a population. However, the Scottish government is limited in the decisions it can make. As of this recording, the people of Scotland are in the process of being asked if they want complete sovereignty. Should they choose and gain complete sovereignty, they would become an independent state and no longer part of the United Kingdom. After 1898, Cuba became free from Spain. However, its existence was still limited. In matters of diplomacy and defense, the Cuban government had to get an agreement from the United States government. Cuba was not a colony, but is what was called a protectorate. A protectorate does not have complete sovereignty. Its powers to set its own destiny are limited in the areas of foreign policy and defense by another state. To be a state, all four of the characteristics must be present. If you can check all four characteristics present and accounted for, then you have a state in terms of political science.
State vs. Society. Students of social sciences, especially political science and sociology, often come across terms like state and society to refer to a grouping of human beings in a particular territory or piece of land. Both a state and a society are comprised of people, and human beings remain the integral parts of both groupings. However, there are many differences between the two concepts that will be highlighted in this article for the readers. Society. Society is a collection of human beings in a territory where people live being regulated by certain norms and customs. The relations between individuals are governed by societal norms, and the social conduct of the people in a society is always dependent upon the shared view of the society about what is good and what is bad. The feeling of belongingness is what makes people cooperate in a society. Society is not restricted by geography in the modern era, as Hindus living in America may be following the same customs and norms as are prevalent in their society in India, and the same goes for Jews living in India even though their homeland may be Israel. India is one country where there are a number of societies within the large Indian society because of different religions. However, the feeling of being Indian supersedes all these societies, with the result that all these societies merge into one Indian society. Thus, a foreigner talks about Indian culture, art, and tradition rather than narrowing down on smaller societies. State. State is a part of a society like many other associations and institutions. It is a political association with machinery in place to run administration and judicial system. It is clear that the rule of law is maintained in a society with the help of state only. However, this rule remains confined to a particular territory, as where this territory ends, the rule of another state begins. The formation of a state is necessary in any society for its protection, as also to further the common interests of the people that make up the society. The state has the power to make laws and also the power to punish people for violation of these laws. Membership to a state is limited and has to be earned.
What is government? We often hear that the government makes all the decisions, or that the government will build schools and hospitals. But do we know what government really means and what it actually is responsible for? Governance is the form or system of rule by which a state or nation is organized and governed. This happens through a system made up of laws and institutions. Government normally consists of legislators, administrators, and arbitrators. Legislators create and pass state law. Administrators implement state law, and arbitrators enforce state law. There are many different forms of government. In South Africa, we have a democratic form of government. The South African government is made up of a group of representatives that we elect through periodically held elections. We refer to it as a representative government. Democratic government is further characterized by the separation and balance of powers. This means that the democratic political system is divided into three branches: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Each branch deals with a different aspect of governance. The legislature is also known as Parliament and consists of the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. It is where laws are debated and passed. The second branch of government, the executive, is represented by the President, Deputy President, and the Cabinet of Ministers. It administers and implements the laws of the legislative and the court decisions of the judiciary. The word government often refers to the executive alone, as it governs the country and takes care of the day-to-day running of the state. The judiciary is the third branch of the democratic system and is represented by the courts and their staff. It interprets the law, decides disputes, and applies the Constitution in the name of the state. Chapters 4, 5, and 8 of our Constitution lay out the structure, roles, and responsibilities of the three branches of the South African government. Democracies are not only characterized by the separation, but also by the balance of powers. Balance aims to ensure that no one division of government has all power. In other words, the separation and balance of powers provides a vital system of checks and balances. The three branches control each other and ensure that power is shared. The main purpose is to prevent the abuse of power. In South Africa, we have three levels of government: the national, provincial, and local spheres of government. Each sphere has its own powers and operates separately. However, the three spheres are interrelated and interdependent and are all equally important to ensuring that the country is well governed. The three spheres of government are entrenched in our Constitution in Chapter 3, titled Cooperative Government. While not usually part of the government structures, in South Africa, traditional leadership is another institution of governance that plays a role in the lives of many people. The South African Constitution officially recognizes in its Chapter 12 the institution, status, and role of traditional leadership. Act 41 of 2003 also deals with traditional leaders within the country's governance framework. This act outlines the structure, functions, and responsibilities of traditional leadership groups and how they work with government. Traditional leaders may carry out an advisory role to government on matters relating to traditional leadership and customary law, under the condition of operating within the framework of the Constitution and common law. Now to summarize, what is a government? Governance is the system of rule by which a state is organized and governed. A government is a group of people and institutions that manage and govern a state. Democratic government is characterized by the separation and balance of powers into three branches of government. In simple terms, the legislature creates and passes state law. The executive implements state law, and the judiciary enforces it. Representative democracies are formed by means of elections. Periodically held elections allow us ordinary citizens to determine who should manage and govern the country and therefore represent our interests.